We're in today with the GTX 1060. This is a 2016 video card with 1280 shaders. It's got 6 gig of VRAM GDDR5 running at 1506 MHz on the core clock and 2002 MHz on the memory clock. It's got 192 bits bus width and DirectX 12 support. We're going to pair it up with this Intel Xeon W3690 with 6 cores and 12 threads, and I'm going to jump in a couple of games and see how this pair is working. Let's go. All right, let's start with XDefiant. Apparently this video card is doing fantastic in this game and the system it's holding. I want to see how much it's gonna push, because this game actually knows how to utilize my system, my GPU. So let's see how the game is performing. Apparently over 100 FPS on average. I think if this computer can do this, the only thing I'm interested in now is on minimals, and minimals are very hard to get nowadays with this type of system. I mean, the CPU itself is not new, you know, it's kind of oldish. If you can manage to work around and see how it's possible to put some life into this computer, you can actually have a lot of fun. So I managed to average a couple of FPS here, 29 on minimals and 61 on 1%. It's doing okay, you know, this computer. On this occasion, you can actually see it's delivering the FPS. You can actually see it stays under 20 frame time, so that is an adequate performance from an old system like this, from an old CPU like this. The GPU is doing the job, 2.9 gig of VRAM, 95% load on the core of the GPU, so it's being utilized and it's doing the job. So the GPU can do the job because it's not overheating. 59 on the system side, you get 8.7 gig of memory utilized from the computer, and it will be very ideal to understand that 65 degrees for this LGA 1366 is a lot, you know. So you can actually see the cores being utilized. There is no denying that, but if it's working, it's working. Even though it's utilized, you can see that the CPU is doing the job. 80-90% on this CPU. Not the best, but it's good. If we're jumping in Valorant with lowest details on 1080p, you can actually see that the whole system is doing fantastic. On this occasion, the video card is not utilized. It's barely utilized. The core is sitting very calmly there on 35 degrees, 36 degrees. I even have the aircon on, and you can actually see the temperature on the video card is kind of good. The CPU inside 51 degrees, 52 degrees. It's decent if you're talking about an old CPU like this. The averages are good, but the minimals, it's yeah, 39. I think it can be improved by actually lowering the resolution. If there is no drop in the FPS on the minimal, I think the whole system is fantastic. This is the right game for this computer. The wattage overall for this computer is good. There is not a lot of consumption, you know, from this computer. You can actually see it's nearly 200 watts. There's no load on the video card. There's no load on the CPU. So I will say an overall performance, it's fantastic. If we're jumping in Dota 2 with maximum details with this computer, you can actually see that yeah, it's working. 1080p maximum details. This game actually needs a lot of power from the CPU and the GPU in some cases. I don't know, in some cases it looks like it's not being bottlenecked, but in some cases it's struggling to give enough FPS to pass over 60. So in some cases it makes no sense. Not a lot of stress on the CPU though. It's got only 30-40% load on the CPU with 9.3 gig of system RAM being utilized. The cores are okay, 55 degrees. You can actually see that the wattage is decent in this situation with the whole computer. On the GPU side, I got 1.9 gig of VRAM utilized with 40-50% load maximum. 100% sure the moment I go in a team fight, it will be all. But if we're jumping in Crossout with maximum details, I set up everything on maximum details, and apparently the GPU can actually work with this game at this stage. The CPU can hold because you can actually see it's under 70 degrees, and it's still rocking because the cores are able to do the job. The GPU has got 3.6 gig of VRAM utilized here. You can actually see the details are fantastic. Maximum core load is doing great. The system itself is only using 6.3 gig of system RAM. That's actually fantastic from an old CPU like this, but overall performance is great. 90 FPS on average, 37 on minimal. Can't say nothing bad about this because I was actually skeptical to put this on maximum details. I thought it will have bad performance, but the video card is doing great. You know, it's got a lot of VRAM, so you can actually see 3.6 gig of VRAM utilized now. Over 300 watts in some cases, you know, depending on the FPS it's got. Overall performance from this computer is good. If we're jumping in Farlight with normal details on 1080p, you can actually see that the GPU and the whole computer is doing a fantastic work. I like it like this because it doesn't stress the GPU. It's not utilizing the core at maximum, so I think this is a better choice because I can get maximum FPS if I'm interested on using that display port in the back. Now if I use that display port in the back, this is the right game. It's an old machine, so in this case you can definitely understand where I'm coming from, because this is a great performance overall. It looks and it runs fantastic. I don't need maximum details because look at this. It's okay to have normal details in some cases because it allows me to benefit from this video card and not stress the whole system. The GPU is doing great, 40-50% load on the core. It looks and it runs perfect. It's not stressed. The temperature is good minimals, 40-50 FPS in some cases, but the average FPS it's good when it comes to Farlight. On the CPU side, 6.2 gig of system RAM is being utilized and around 50% load on the CPU. Great if you're interested on maxing out for your monitor. If we're jumping in PUBG with this system, you can actually see on 1080p with 70% render scale and low details, the GPU and the system is doing a fantastic job. 270 watts consumption at maximum. It's not that bad when you think about an old video card like this. I mean, an old system like this, because it's not very, how should I say, common. But you can actually see that the FPS is averaging okay with around 100 FPS. It's not a lot, but it's doing a fantastic work. I like the performance that is offering with this type of settings. You can adjust it and usually put 60 FPS on average, you know, if you're interested on locking it to the monitor, and then you will have more efficiency. Even like this is okay, you know, you can actually see it's not utilizing the GPU core. I think you can actually increase the details in order to get more render scale maybe, if I'm not mistaken, but it all depends on your setting. I just wanted to show you the best performance from this system and from this video card. But if we're jumping in Counter-Strike with performance mode, I mean low details with 1080p, you can actually see that the computer is using nearly 250 watts. This is actually good for this computer because the video card can actually output as much as it can. In this case, you can see that it doesn't pass 50% load on the GPU core. And I like that, you know, because in some cases the video card it's not okay, and in some cases the moment the core it's reaching 100% on the video card, then you have low minimals. But in this case I still have low minimals and it makes no sense, and I'm guessing the threads on the CPU are the problem. Even though the cores are like 40-50% loaded in this case with 8.1 gig of system RAM, nearly 60 degrees on the CPU, the game still has low minimals, and it pisses me off. On the CPU side you can actually see a couple of threads are reaching maximum, so I'm guessing that's where the low minimals are being generated. So do I like how it's working overall? It's a decent performance. It's nearly 100 FPS on average with 34 on minimal, and if you take in consideration the age of this PC, the age of the CPU, I will say this is quite decent. Last time I was here in No Man's Sky, I had 1080p with standard details with fidelity FX on performance, and I really love how the GPU and the system is performing. Now I came here today with this video card and this CPU and to see how the GPU is holding, and it's doing a fantastic job. 70% load on the GPU, 2.7 gig of VRAM utilized. I got nearly 240 watts consumption, and the CPU it's not stressed, but it's utilizing a lot of system RAM, nearly 10 gig of system RAM, and it's a fantastic performance overall. I like it. I like how it looks. I like how it's running. So an overall performance is great, but like I said last time, it's very hard on the minimals because it's not okay, you know, to have 5-10 minimals in order to play this game. You know, I mean, it's not a fast-paced game, you know, you don't need a lot of minimals in order to play this game, but ideal will be to have as high as possible. In this case, you can actually see that the system is doing great, over 100 FPS. I can take it off from Fidelity FX if I want more details in the game, but the game looks okay. The only downside on this video card is that it's very hard to fill up that 6 gig of VRAM. Now, if you don't have a computer that has those AVX instructions like 1366 CPU, then you'll have a lot of problems. You cannot justify this 6 gig of VRAM model. Now, if you have a good CPU that you can start games like Starfield or Cyberpunk and newer games that requires that instructions from the CPU, then it's justifiable to get this video card because it's a very decent video card. Today, I managed to see one thing. If the CPU lacks those instructions, majority of the game doesn't require 6 gig of VRAM like this video card. It's okay with 2.5, 2.6, nearly to 3.3 gig of VRAM. So in my opinion, if the machine is old like this HP, I would suggest a 3 gig of VRAM model. That's important because that model is very cheap and you can find it everywhere. You know, this 6 gig model is still retains some, I shall say, value, and the price is not that low yet. But if you find a good deal, I'm 100% sure you can get it because it's worth it. Regardless, I like the video card. I like the overall idea of this video card because it allows me with this amount of VRAM to put it in all kinds of computers and have a lot of fun because it's a very decent video card and it has DirectX support. I like it. Plus, I love this LJ1366 and how it's working with majority of the games nowadays. If you have any suggestion for this machine, for this HP Z400 or for this 1060, leave a comment and I will see you very soon.